The short rule of King Kambugia was brought to an end under rather unknown circumstances. Rumour had it that the retainers of the late Sinsharish Khun had killed him, but there was no proof to be found. Thus Artaxias' chosen heir, Esarhaddon, ascended to the throne. This came with a string of capitulations to the coalition, with its borders extending out further than Esarhaddon had dared to promise. The capture of Tyros would complete his manifesto, but it wouldn't remain complete for long. Pestilent liars, all of them. I was blinded by their sweet talk. Truly that courtier, Sinsharish Khun, was a man of magic, for all the world was falling under his spell. Now we awake and smell the stench of Achaemenids on the air again. Their defensive coalition is no bulwark against empires, but an empire itself. Their king rules as if he was king of kings, and expects the people of Pergamon to protect their border from Europa with no compensation. Word is, they have sent an army into our lands, as if we were one of their exploited vassals. All those who set foot on our lands with foul intention shall set foot nowhere else but the realm of Hades. There is no place for an Armenian in Asia, or beside the Black Sea, or beside the Mediterranean Sea. They restored their kingdom. Let's remind them of where exactly that kingdom is. And if they don't listen, we'll remind them just why it was that their idiot tribes got conquered without effort by anyone who so much as pointed a spear in their general direction. Hello there and welcome back to Wings of Eden. Right now we're suddenly fighting an army from Pergamon after being drawn into a war with them, and after putting my army in their territory just before, for no particular reason. I'm rushing to get these men up onto the high ground in front of our deployment zone before the enemy arrive, and we're going to have a pretty lax time about getting our favourite terrain because the enemy are advancing in a very poor fashion. You can see here they're actually going the wrong way a lot of the time. Some of their cav have advanced towards us, so some fighting will get started, but it's going to be a while before the main army engages. Right now these Jav cav are going to have a difficult time fighting us, since our front line has the big shields that can block their javelins, and the archers behind will gradually kill all of these horsemen as they just wander around in front of us. They also, for some reason, sent one melee unit to attack further down the line. They were weakened by archers and then went in for a melee that they might lose on their own, and I think I sent some cataphracts from the left flank to go and take them out at some point, so they'll not be lasting very long. Now back on the right, they have outflanked us here. I'm not really paying much attention to this. I could be turning my men to actually defend my right flank, but for some reason I just decided to leave them to it. I do have this echelon of skirmishers on a little ridge on our right that also got attacked by cav. In this case, the Javs and the attack of my cataphracts drove those cav away, and the guys attacking the end of the main line also withdrew. Here comes their general moseying up to take a look. I thought he might charge our line, but actually he just walked around off to our right flank for a while without engaging, and eventually sat on the hill opposite us over there. I got my horse archers to start sniping away at him as he manoeuvres, and he will come back to the fight eventually. Those cav from earlier are still here, so I need to drive them off some more with my cataphracts. They're almost dead. As for the rest of their army, it's getting there. Again, it's running the wrong direction at the moment. They're trying to reform, I think, every few paces or something, so it's taking them a long time. Eventually pulled some spears off the main line to come down and clear things up here on our right. The enemy's general attacked my general, which might be an okay engagement for the enemy, so I'm just going to get out of there and draw the enemy onto this spear unit, which will obviously do fine against those shock cav, and then my cataphracts could even get back in there to make things extra good. Finally, some enemy infantry are starting to arrive. Because of how I've set up my formation, they're going to be concentrating their attack on this one unit on the end of the line. We're getting lots of jabs coming in because they've got an army where all of the main infantry units can throw jabs. So we're being bombarded, but thanks to our tall shields and the spear wall formation, which increases the chance of blocking missiles, we're not taking devastating damage. Finally, units do start to come in to fight us along the line, which is what I've been waiting for. The enemy had to run to get here, so a lot of their units will be tired and will be very ineffective in melee, meaning our line is going to have a great time. You can see how concentrated they are on the edge of our line, so I am going to start actually reacting to this very late in the game, moving some pikes from the reserves to make a tiny echelon on the rightmost end of the line to support those spears. Once everything's stuck in there, it is potentially pretty dangerous. One of our units is starting to get damaged. I wanted to send all of these skirmishers to go and outflank the enemy's pikes or go behind them and just bombard them, but they were being engaged by melee infantry, so it didn't work very well. On our left, things are great, because the enemy have concentrated so much on the right that there's not much over here, and I've got a free unit of cataphracts that can just take out the one unit attacking the left end of the line, also being attacked by hypaspists and our spears in the flank. They decide to get out of there, and this will begin the process of folding things up from this side. So all the right needs to do is hold on for a while. It is being a little bit overwhelmed right now, and my plan to attack them with javelins is still being stalled by the fact that enemy melee infantry are just running into them over here on this other hill. I've got one unit of reserve spears that could be deployed to help out here, but I probably wasn't paying attention at this point. I brought a unit of militia all the way around from the leftmost part of the line to now engage the enemy's main blob from the back, and my cataphracts are going to try a rear charge on these pikes, but it doesn't really work because I think they were charging something else and then I gave them an order too close to the enemy and they just didn't really run. But we don't need to get a massive charge into them because just attacking them like this demoralizes them and we'll be able to rout them like that. We can't rout their main block with this militia attack from behind, but at least it's going to lower their morale and fix them in place so we can maneuver. Here on the right, things are finally clearing up. We got rid of the one or two units that were stopping our jabs from getting into action, and I'm finally deploying my reserve spears as well. We'll surround the enemy's main blob, and they just start routing at this point. I guess because I was hitting them with missiles and we had infantry behind them, that was enough of a combined morale shock to rout them without anything particularly special happening. And as they go, they're going to be slaughtered en masse. The main bulk of the enemy's heavy infantry are going to be killed. Our horse archers get in there to join the fray. I played the rout phase for a while for no particular reason, just to execute my surround and pound strategy. Eventually I get bored and the battle is over. A decisive victory where we lost very few troops in comparison to the enemy, suffice to say, and in fact it was so resounding that this victory will end the war entirely. Peace is our primary objective, friend. We would be delighted to accept a ceasefire. Then may both our peoples rejoice. I must hurry back and deliver the good news. Wait! I didn't say I would accept it without terms. I need a guarantee that neither you nor your successors will pull a stunt like this ever again. You have my word, good king. I'll have first choice for your advisors and the power to select your heir. Is that what I heard you say? You wish to make a satrap of me. Do you think we do not have the stomach for one defeat? This demand will enrage the people and give me armies 10 times as numerous. Or, listen to this. I will build you a palace worthy of the High King of Pergamon. The Athenians will weep at its beauty, and the Spartans will weep before its might. Inside you will find 1,000 slaves to be disposed of as you wish, and replaced at my personal expense. While I would levy the standard tribute from the kingdom in exchange for our protection, the compensation we offer you would more than make up for its effect on your household. And of course, no army will ever threaten your people again, and you can concern yourself entirely with the more luxurious aspects of life. Ah, the beauty of the slaves I can offer you. You will have all the time you need to appreciate it. In fact, if you agree now, I will have some of them bring you a sample of all the gold yet to come tonight. You would offer all this? Do not underestimate the wealth of Armenia or the depth of its love for peace. So, shall I call you a fellow king of the coalition? worthy of such hard-earned bounties. With that war over as soon as it began, we go into another war now, because Bactria has declared war on Gelonus, this northern nomadic tribe that for some reason is our puppet state, I guess a result of the random northern diplomacy we were doing earlier, where I was just puppet stating anyone who declared war on the Caucasus kingdoms. So we're now at war with Bactria, and we immediately see their forces moving into the area. They take out some Medes. We'll do what we can to avenge them. We've only got one army in the area, and that's the one under Manui Capi that was hanging around, and currently it's already got a mission. I need to move them east to attack Raga because the Seleucids took it back, meaning we now don't control Media Atropatene, one of our core victory regions, so we'll just go after that. As for the Baktrians, we'll be able to move Mithridates over in a minute to deal with that situation, because his siege at Tyros has now been supported by our giant Nabatean puppet state from the south, so we get a really easy auto-resolve against what's left here. I think they also had an army inside that sailed out during the end turn sequence, so that made things easy. Although, as you can see there, we did lose some cataphracts in the auto-resolve, which really sucks. It seems auto-resolve is still being a little bit mean, which is probably for the best, because auto-resolve was really exploitative when it just evenly took units, or took men from all of your units at once. Anyway, so with that done, everything is now peaceful down south in our empire, and Mithridates will move over to help against Bactria. As the next turn comes around, we've got another war starting. Looks like Pergamon's going to benefit from being our puppet state right away. This random faction across the Black Sea declared war on them. Now we're at war with that random faction. And as you might guess, we're not going to actually fight this war. I just went to them and said, "Do you want to surrender to me before I do anything?" They said yes, and the war is immediately over, and we got another puppet state, increasing our profits yet further. Looks like this random faction with no leader, the Sarmatian rebels, is taking over things in the north, but I'm broadly ignoring the northern drama, so we won't intervene or anything. We'll just see if they ever come to actually bother us. Now back down in the east, it looks like the Baktrians have created themselves an ally. They captured Susa and created the Parthian nobles. I'm going to undermine the Baktrians by getting non-aggression with their new ally in the area, so hopefully that will mean nothing comes of this. They're not going to declare war on us, and by the looks of things they're taking attrition on their one unit, so they clearly don't have any food. They're probably not a threat. So here we go, we start this siege at Raga. For some reason, the Baktrians and the Seleucids are able to capture our puppet states' territory in one turn, so it seems our puppet states haven't been bothering to repair the walls or anything, they've left the gates open. We see another case of this here, where Baktrians suddenly appear and just take a city with no siege or anything. So we have now lost a lot of our puppet states' territory down in the Iran area, but since we don't really have wars going on other borders anymore, we can start pivoting to go and sort that whole mess out. Your Majesty, I didn't expect you to return so soon. What? I haven't been in Yevendashat since the throning ceremony. But you, what? With the greatest respect, Your Majesty, perhaps you forgot. You were here just 2 days ago. I know where I was. But you must remember, you had the fiefs around Van transferred to your household. There was quite a stir about it. We were just about to meet to discuss it again when we heard of your return. Or arrival. That's impossible. Was I? No, I was riding here, and of course that didn't happen. I'm not some forgetful old man. I never meant to imply that, Your Majesty. Perhaps I am mistaken. Shall I inform the court to ignore any orders to transfer those fiefs? I'll tell them myself. Assemble the court, and we'll get to the bottom of this. Either you are all conspiring against me, or it could be that rumor. I decided to make a political marriage at this point. I wanted to marry Artavastes, who is now widowed, to the leader of Media Atropatene, since they are at the moment our closest and one of our oldest allies, and they hold a lot of land in our coalition. Doing this had a strange effect though. We've now made the main line of our dynasty part of the Median dynasty, because Artavasdes was the matriarch of the ruling part of our dynasty and has now had her bit of the family transferred into someone else's family, meaning, in theory, Esarhaddon isn't our leader, or at least that's what I thought might be happening, but it's not that complicated. Basically everything is exactly the same, it's just that the guys ruling our faction aren't in the dynasty tree, because technically they're in someone else's dynasty until Artavasdes dies, so that's going to make managing politics a bit more annoying. And then this happened all of a sudden. I'm not sure if this is at all related to that marriage thing, but Esarhaddon suddenly died of natural causes, apparently at 44 years old. That's rather random. Seems a bit young to be dying of old age, but it was the past after all. Does seem like foul play is afoot, but there's no evidence of that. We can't see what that actually does to the leadership of our kingdom, because his part of the family is not in the tree here, but what it did was make his wife the ruler. So we now have a queen, I think her name was Arahuna, and she will be queen until Esarhaddon's son comes of age, and then he will be king, because he was previously the nominated heir. Manuikapi, who surely had something to do with all of these shenanigans, needs to pop over here to Xputana, because the Baktrians have suddenly captured another one of our vassals' territories. We're going to siege them out here. They've got a decent army inside, loads of Indian troops from far away. We'll put some siege equipment together and go and take a look at that again later on. This political dialogue reveals to us that we do indeed have a queen, Arahuna. What's happening right here is I promoted Manuikapi to be royal advisor to reflect his standing in our current chaotic dynasty, and he needs to use some influence to force his way in because the queen was against it. Now, if you were wondering what I was doing with Esarhaddon's army for the last few turns, I've just been slowly walking back to our territory. They don't have any supplies, so they've had to move quite slowly. I think you have to stop to restore supplies, but I didn't actually know that at this point. The plan is just to refit his army with new units before it does anything else. We've also been moving with Mithridates' army. It's slowly been coming down to investigate the Seleucid territories here, and the plan will just be to go on an offensive and see what happens for no particular reason. As we move on, the Seleucids go and recapture Raga again. No siege. Looks like the Medes are very poor in their defences, so Manuikapi is now going to have lots of work to sort things out over there and make sure we actually do control Media Atropatene. As Esarhaddon's army returns home, we can see the new units we have available. We've unlocked 2 new heavy infantry units, a Armenian noble sword unit and a Roman style one. I'm going to use the Armenian one mostly in this army because it's actually a bit better than the Roman style one, but I'll make another army at some point with a load of our Romanized infantry to see how they perform. Now we're in the next turn and Mithridates has found himself a target. Nothing special on the defense, we just need to get some equipment together and go in, so he'll get to work on that. Now we're in a new war somewhere in the west, because some faction declared war on the Byzantines, who we're currently allied to. That faction is actually a pretty big faction that controls a lot of territory in Illyria. Our contact with them also gave us contact with the Roman Republic, which is nice to see. I'm going to get them to give me some money in exchange for non-aggression and military access, as a vague sign of our dominance. Now it's time to resolve the Baktrian siege situation. We've got our equipment ready, and while we could wait and just siege them out since there is no particular rush, there is some advantage to storming the city now, so we can then send this army against the Seleucids. Plus, it would be interesting to see a siege assault, I thought. So let's get in and take on this full stack of defenders.
They don't suspect a thing. I can marry off Esarhaddon's mother. I can place my allies in whatever offices I like. For all see that whoever that other man was, he was an imposter. The real Esarhaddon is the only bearer of authority in Armenia. Let the children of that traitor rot in the courts of the failing Medes. Not that their lives matter, for they can only claim power if the chosen king dies. And I shall not die. That is certain. Well, I suppose maybe I am already dead. For if I am Esarhaddon, then who was the man that came before me? Mysterious man nui capi. Maybe if I offer enough tribute to the master, I shall gain immortality for both names. How lucky it is then that I have a whole city to plunder. Yes, the people shall learn that Esarhaddon lives when the walls of the great Mede city crumble, and all are praising his name and deeds. Then I shall be sure to outlive history, and reach what lies at its end.
Nothing special about our strategy here, just moved up to the wall and climbed up. Annoyingly, where I advanced with siege towers, the enemy didn't defend the wall, so those siege towers were pretty much wasted. The ladders did fine though, because the enemy archers were distracted or killed by my own archers, and also they didn't defend all of the wall around them. So you can see here, support units come in to help the guys who are jumping into blocks of enemies, and soon all of these relatively weak Indian troops who don't have armor and don't have shields will be taken down by our armored tower shielded spearmen. Things are a bit harder over here in the southwest corner of the city because the enemy have some Greek-style armoured troops, but not going to do all that much once we start to slaughter all of their allies. Our archers are clearing things up a little bit further east. You can see pretty soon all of those archers and longbowmen have just been annihilated, and we have a definitive presence on the wall. We just need to push on and clear everything out. And things are going surprisingly well, I must say. These heavy spearmen are really good, or at least they're a lot better than levies, especially because I've got the maximum armor upgrade, which makes them hard to kill. They don't have the best offensive power, but staying alive really does help, especially when you've got missile support to kill the enemies for you. Here you can see I needed to break open the enemy gates that are already open in a confusing twist, just one of the glitchy aspects of Attila. When the gates are open, they are considered closed by your side, unlike in the earlier Total War games, so the RAM has to go and sort that out. Here you can see that missile support I was talking about. The archers are just bombarding the wall, and while they're almost certainly hitting our own men, our men are heavily armoured, technically, because of the armour upgrades, whereas the enemy are all low armour units that will easily be killed by archers, so this is pretty good friendly fire. It's mostly going to affect the enemy, and you can see all the enemy units are just being annihilated up there. It was surprisingly easy to capture the wall. Meanwhile, we have opened the gates. It looks the same as it did before. The ram phases into another reality, clearing the way for us to start bringing cavalry inside. Soon most of the stuff up on that wall is routing, and that's going to be an absolute slaughter. They have to route through us to get to the towers, going down to the lower level. We're going to see pretty much everything up there get killed. Here comes the cavalry going through the newly opened gate to form up ready to advance on the centre of the city, while another unit climbs up this tower to take out more archers who are sitting up here. This fight actually lasted a long time, which was a problem because the tower is still active, shooting my men slowly but surely. Some more troops went to reinforce, but now that we've secured everything on that other part of the wall, more men can come in to support. The archers are going to rush inside the city, ready to support the next phase of our attack, which we're sort of starting right now, with the cataphracts using their bows to attack the enemy horse archers defending the centre of the town. Those horse archers, along with the enemy general, are currently focusing on shooting this other group of spears coming around from the west, but they're not doing that much damage thanks to our good missile block ability. You might remember that this is the map that was really glitchy and all the capture points don't line up, which proved to be very useful. You can see we captured that one tower where everyone was fighting. If that tower had exploded in traditional Attila fashion when you capture it, we probably would have lost hundreds of our men because they were all clustered around it during the melee. So the glitchiness has been in our favour once again on this particular map. Our spearmen are assaulting the town centre, which was only defended by cavalry, perfect for an army that's mostly spearmen. We've got this one unit here blocking off the route towards the rest of the enemy army. As long as we can hold them out, whatever happens we can probably then win on victory points, so that's the plan there. Meanwhile in the centre, the enemy general is in huge trouble, getting totally surrounded by our spears, and our own cataphracts are going to get in there as well. Soon that's all cleared up and we can commit all of the spearmen to just holding the rest of the enemy army out. The one unit at the front's having a bit of a difficult time since our units are tired at this point, so even though we're fighting cavalry units, they're not actually killing them very well. There's the enemy's governor in the purple helmet hacking away at our spears and somehow surviving. But our men will receive some support from the cataphracts and archers that are now forming up behind them. We can rain arrows on the enemy blob. The blob got bigger and bigger as all of the enemy's remaining infantry piled into it, including these pikes, who could be dangerous, but they're only the bronze shield pikes who have low armour and thus are also going to be vulnerable to just spamming their blob with arrows. Our men on the front are going to have a difficult time here. This isn't an ideal melee, but it doesn't need to be a victory for us because we have the victory point already captured. I'm trying to set up here to do an outflanking manoeuvre using a tiny bit of space that we have, but our men are too tired to really do anything chargy, and as you may also remember, these units for some reason don't charge properly. They do this weird sneak step thing and just walk in. Whether that actually still applies charge bonus, I don't know. They seem to kill a couple of enemies as they go in. Broadly speaking, that blob is going to be doomed actually, because the arrow fire kills loads of them, and they've lost so much of their army at this point that everything that didn't die just routed, and now it's going to be an absolute slaughter as everything that was here piled forwards. I had units resting earlier and I replaced the unit on the front with the resting ones just in time to get this rout going, so we'll annihilate everything as they run, and that's a decisive victory. Xputana is recaptured. Another big win for the mysterious Manu Capi, and we are now once again very close to having all of our victory regions captured. That is all for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to all of the officially Devon patrons. We've got one last humiliation in store for the Seleucids in the next part of Wings of Eden.